Do you know how to castrate a human being? No? Well, get ready. You're about to learn more than you probably ever wanted to know. In ancient civilizations, this brutal practice was surprisingly common. Among the societies where castration played a significant role, ancient China stands out for how widespread and organized the practice was. The castration process was complicated, requiring careful preparation, execution, and aftercare. Beyond the physical pain, the practice had a lasting impact on those who underwent it, leaving a legacy of trauma and social stigma. Castration in ancient China began with careful planning. A lucky day was chosen. Though the man about to undergo the procedure probably didn't feel so lucky. The man was put into a sealed room to reduce the risk of infection. The day before the surgery, he had to fast, avoid food and water, and clean himself thoroughly. Right before the procedure, he was given strong alcohol to numb his senses, sometimes mixed with herbs like cannabis for extra sedation. When he was dizzy enough, he was tied down to a bench, with his limbs and genitals restrained tightly to prevent movement. Under the man, a lime-filled basin was placed to absorb the blood. The surgeon started by applying herbal ointment to numb the area and reduce swelling. Then, the scrotum was cut horizontally on each side, and the connective tissues were severed, allowing the testicles to be pushed out. This step required great strength from the man, who had to tense his body and push until the testicles emerged. To help with this, the surgeon used an unusual method. A peeled, soft-boiled egg was placed in the man's mouth. The feeling of choking forced the man to strain his body, helping the testicles come out. The removal of the penis followed, requiring precise skill. If the cut was too shallow, it could regrow, but if it was too deep, it could cause complications such as scalloped urine or trouble urinating. After removal, a hollow straw was inserted as a temporary urethra. The wounds were then covered with bitter pig gallbladder to stop bleeding and reduce swelling. By the way, the penis had to be carefully preserved, as many eunuchs hoped to redeem it in the future, and it was a way for surgeons to make money. Post-surgical care was also critical. The eunuch was kept on a special wooden plank for 3 days, with his hands and feet tied to prevent him from disturbing the wound. During this period, he was not allowed to drink water to limit urination. If he survived these first 3 days, the straw could be removed from his urethra. Even then, full recovery could take months, requiring strict hygiene and rest. But what drove people to go through such a terrible procedure? The answer lies in the power of the emperor. Ancient Chinese emperors were known for their large harems, often described as 3,000 beauties. But let's be honest. How did they even remember everyone's name? To avoid potential scandals, only eunuchs, men who had undergone castration, were trusted to serve in the inner courts. Eunuchs came from different backgrounds. Many were prisoners of war or family members of criminals. Others were sold by poor families desperate for money. And a few chose castration themselves, hoping to find work in the palace and escape poverty. Before the Eastern Han period, castration wasn't mandatory for all eunuchs. But over time, it became standard, making their role in society fully institutionalized. Physically, eunuchs were easily recognized by their soft, hairless faces and high voices. While these features made them seem less threatening to the imperial family, they also alienated them from society. They were often seen as incomplete men, a view made worse by Confucian beliefs that valued the body. The saying, "The body, hair and skin are received from one's parents and must not be harmed," showed the deep belief that castration was a violation of respect for parents. Additionally, because having children was so important in society, summed up in the saying, "There are 3 ways to be unfilial. The worst is to have no descendants." Eunuchs were further excluded since they couldn't have children. Eunuchs, even though they were looked down on by society, had surprising power in the imperial court. Their close relationship with the emperor and their access to palace secrets made them essential. However, this powerful position also led to corruption and betrayal, as eunuchs fought against each other to gain favor or consolidate power. In this cutthroat environment, even the most powerful eunuchs could fall victim to their rivals. One of the most infamous eunuchs in Chinese history was Zhao Gao, a court official during the Qin dynasty. After the death of Qin Shi Huang, Zhao Gao controlled the succession, placing the weak Hu Hai as emperor. His trickiness was shown by the story of pointing at a deer and calling it a horse. One day, Zhao Gao walked into the court with a deer and said,
"I found a great horse for you, your majesty."
The emperor looked confused and said,
"Ah, that's a deer."
But Zhao Gao kept saying,
No, it's a horse.
and anyone who dared disagree with him, they were punished. This wasn't merely about a deer or a horse, it was a test of loyalty. By making people agree with something ridiculous, Zhao Gao took more control of the court. This incident became a lasting symbol of distorting the truth and ruling through fear. Imagine your boss telling you that a deer is a horse. Do you laugh, agree, or just walk away? In contrast, Zheng He, a eunuch of the Ming dynasty, is remembered as a pioneer of diplomacy and exploration. As the leader of 7 maritime explorations, Zheng He expanded China's influence across Southeast Asia, South Asia, and Africa, showing the potential for peaceful international exchange. Unfortunately, after his death, the Ming government stopped maritime explorations, leaving China isolated during a period of rapid global development. Interestingly, Europe, made up of many competing states, allowed navigators like Columbus to find sponsors, while China's unified imperial decision-making led large-scale maritime explorations to fade away. China was not the only culture to use eunuchs. The Ottoman Empire, for example, had eunuchs in similar roles, guarding the harem and serving the sultan. In Europe, castration had a different role. Boys were castrated before puberty to preserve their unique, high-pitched voices. These boys became stars in opera houses across Europe, renowned for their ethereal voices. Castration has historically been a tool of class oppression. Those in power use their authority to force people from the lower classes to sacrifice their bodies, whether for survival, money, or the hope of a better life. Thankfully, modern societies have moved away from these cruel practices, focusing on dignity, equality, and personal freedom. However, class oppression still exists in many forms today. Conflicts based on gender, race, or social status often come from deep-rooted inequality. So, what do you think? Does history help us better understand today's struggles? If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.